Good morning. It is Monday, June 17th. You are at the Grange Board of Adjustments and Appeals. It is 8:31, and we're going to move forward with this meeting. We have two things on the agenda for this morning. First, I'd like to take a poll of who all is here, and it looks like Mr. Pierce is here. Myself, Mr. Morgan, and Mr. Early are all here, so everyone's present. Looks like next thing on here is ask everybody to turn their cell phones down, any noise-making devices, so forth, and then ask the secretary to my right to swear in all the staff.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Thank you.
All righty. Thank you, ma'am.
You actually don't have to be sworn in. You actually don't have to be sworn
I don't? Really? Okay. Sorry. It felt good anyway. So, all right. The first case on the docket this morning is LG-24-001. Could I have the applicant come forward and the staff come forward and make their presentation, please?
Docket LG-24-001. An application has been filed requesting a side yard setback variance for a proposed detached accessory structure garage on property located at 305 Maple Avenue, LaGrange. A variance is being requested to construct the detached garage 2 feet from the side property line, requiring a variance of 3 feet. Zoning ordinance Section 250-030. The property is zoned R-2A residential district.
All right.
Fantastic. Good morning.
Thank you.
State your name and address, all that good stuff, sir.
All right. Good morning. Ryan Fisher, Senior Planner with Oldham County Planning and Development, 100 West Jefferson Street in LaGrange. So as Christy stated, this is an application for a side setback variance for a detached accessory structure. She did tell you it was R2A. It sits on 0.215 acres on Maple Court. No previous site history to note. As far as the case history, we made all of our proper notifications, posting to the county website at the end of May. We sent the adjoining property owner notices on the 4th of June, and the public notice appeared in the Oldham Era on the 6th of June. So this is the property, 305 Maple Court. Just so you know, since this question may come up, these lines on our GIS map are not exact and accurate. So you'll see these two buildings, and these are going to come into play when you see these pictures. These are the two buildings that the applicant will be replacing to build the detached garage. So don't let the lines fool you and think that they're on somebody else's property. So there we are on Maple Court, the zoning R2A. And so the applicant is requesting this side yard setback variance for this proposed detached accessory structure, being a garage, at 305 Maple Court. Section 250-030, Section H, number 1, requires those accessory structures to be set back from rear and side property lines a minimum of 5 feet. And this was in your staff packet, but I've highlighted it here for you. All accessory structures shall be set back from the rear and side property lines a minimum of 5 feet. So these are detached accessory structures with no living space in them. That changes if it becomes an accessory dwelling unit where somebody's going to live in it, but this is just going to be a garage with no living space. So this proposed garage the applicant is proposing is 14 feet wide by 28 feet deep. 392 total square feet, and the applicant would like to put this building 2 feet from the left side property line. So therefore, the applicant is requesting a variance today of 3 feet. Per the applicant's justification statement, the applicant's proposing to build this new garage to remove the plastic storage sheds that are currently in place, thus approving the aesthetics and appearance of the overall property. Here is the site plan showing the detached garage going on the property and the 2 feet that he would like to place it from the property line. So that side yard setback variance, the required side yard for that detached accessory structure would be 5 feet. The applicant's requesting 2 feet, so the variance being requested is 3 total feet. This is a schematic of what the garage is proposed to look like, and then just a few pictures of the property on Maple Court. You will see the 2 plastic storage buildings the applicant is proposing to replace, and then a zoomed-in view of those. So potential conditions of approval for us, the variance shall only apply to the plan reviewed at this June 17th, 2024 LaGrange Board of Adjustments public hearing, and there shall be no living space and no commercial use in the detached accessory structure. With that being said, that concludes my presentation.
Thank you, sir. Is there anybody else that would like to speak in favor of the application present today? The applicant? Here. If you could come forward, sir, and state your name and address.
My name is Bob Gastrite, 305 Maple Court, LaGrange.
And could you raise your right hand and be sworn in, please?
Do you solemnly swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Go ahead, sir.
You guys need anything more from me than
Yeah,
what he
yeah,
presented?
I mean, it
the reason I need the variance is if you can see my driveway where it comes up to the house. If I have to do the 5 foot, it'll be way offline with the current driveway already. So I was hoping that there's nothing on my neighbor's property that's going closer to, because it's just open yard, and he does not have a problem with it. We've discussed it and so on and so forth. And in fact, my other neighbor wrote a letter. I don't know if he mailed it in or not, but I've got a copy of it here. If you guys need to,
I don't
you didn't
think
get one.
she got anything. Yeah.
You guys want to look at it or anything? Yeah, he gave it to me. I didn't know if he mailed it in or not, but
Yes, sir. You can put it on the overhead there. Thank you, sir. Very good.
Just for the record, it is signed, right? If you can just slide it
yes.
up a little bit,
Oh, there you go. Thank you.
and then we'll submit it to her for the record.
Okay. That'd be fine.
Does anybody have any questions for Mr. Gastright from the board?
I have maybe one. Just from our own education, when we're saying 2 feet from the property line, is that the base of the structure, or is that
That will
the
be the
overhang?
footer, yes, sir.
Or the overhang? Because
Well,
you're
it'll
gonna,
probably end up being the overhang, because I'm not actually going to need a full 3 feet. But I requested 3 feet variance because I'm not exactly sure where it's going to come, how far it's going to come over.
and I was just wanting to know, you know,
But
what the dead end line is
Right,
vertically.
it's a great question. And typically we do it from the foundation or the wall, not from the overhang.
Okay.
So he's requesting it be 2 feet for the foundation.
I'm doing a monolithic footer and slab, and that will probably be, if my calculations are correct, probably about 30 to 32 inches from the property line.
Okay, okay. And the other question is, or comment, or request, is one of the current sheds dumps the runoff water on his property, on your property. The other one puts it on his property. This new one, now we're encroaching on his property or into the variance. Will we put gutters on that side, so we're not dumping?
Oh, absolutely. Yes, sir.
Okay,
Yes,
they
sir.
didn't show on the
Yes, sir.
drawing. I just wanted to make sure
Yes,
that
sir.
we put gutters on that side and we have downspouts that put the water on your property, not on your neighbor's property.
Right.
Okay, that's it.
Just from my own view, and I understand, as was previously mentioned, that the lines that we're seeing here are probably off a little bit. The plastic shed, storage shed that you have on the property right now, that's it in the picture
Yes.
along the side there,
Yes.
correct? So in relation to that, is your new proposed structure going to be right there?
It'll be
or
further in from that, from the
further
property line.
in towards
Yes.
your property?
Yes, sir.
Okay, all right.
And they're very, very close to the 2 foot, to a 2 foot from the property line.
I see.
And if you see my driveway there, it's actually a little over 4 feet from the property line.
I see.
Because I did have my land surveyed again since I wanted to get this done.
Yes, sir.
You
Okay.
can see where my grass is cut there.
Yes.
It's right on my property line,
Okay.
on the left side of the driveway.
All righty, sir. And even with your 3-foot variance, you're still going to be right there in that grass cutting area, correct?
I will be a little bit, yes, sir.
Yeah, okay.
My driveway is 12 feet wide, and the way I want to do it is because I have to be 5 feet from the existing building, on the corner there, it'll be 5 feet back from that, and it's going to go straight in from the driveway on the right side that's closer to my house, and then the extra 2 feet will be on the outside. That's why I need the variance.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. All righty. Did you have anything else for us, sir?
No, sir.
All righty, all righty. Thank you very much, then.
Thank you.
No other questions, correct?
Anybody in opposition?
What, sir?
Next to
Oh,
opposition.
yes, sir. So is there anybody that would like to speak in opposition of the proposed variance here that is being requested?
I don't see any of my neighbors here, so
All righty. You may take a seat then,
right,
sir.
thank you.
All righty. There being no opposition, it's time now for discussion amongst the board in regards to the request for the 3-foot variance. Anybody opposed to this or in favor?
Make a motion.
I'll need a motion.
Need a motion to approve the variance because it will not adversely affect the public health, safety, or welfare, and be within the essential character of the general vicinity. Will not cause a hazard or nuisance to the public, and will not allow unreasonable circumvention of the requirements of the zoning regulations.
And you'd want to include in there the conditions of approval. There are 2 of them on page, that's 3. I didn't hear any additional conditions of approval.
I'll include those.
Okay, I'll read them for the record. The variance shall only apply to the plan reviewed at the June 17, 2024 LaGrange Board of Adjustments public hearing. And the second one is that there shall be no living space and no commercial use in the detached accessory structure.
Fantastic. We have,
I don't plan on living out there, but my wife may make me sleep out there.
that's all right. So long as it's no more than 2 or 3 nights, you're all right.
I'm a pastor and I can help you with that.
All righty. Then we have a motion on the floor. I need a second at this time, please. Have a second by Mr. Pierce. Now vote all in favor of approving the setback. Aye. Anybody opposed? There being none, motion passes and the variance is approved. Thank you, sir. Next case that we have coming forward, LG 24-002.
An application has been filed requesting variance for a proposed convenience store and fuel station on property located at 800 West Jefferson Street, LaGrange. Variances are being requested to construct the convenience store 16 feet from the Jefferson Street property line, requiring a variance of 14 feet. 7 feet from the rear property line, requiring a variance of 18 feet, and a impervious surface area of 84%, requiring a variance of 19%. Zoning ordinance, section 170-020. A variance is being requested to construct a fuel station 9.64 feet from the Franklin Avenue property line, requiring a variance of 5.36 feet. Zoning ordinance, section 250-100. Variances are being requested to construct a refuse disposal container dumpster 7 feet from the rear property line, requiring a variance of 18 feet, and 4 feet from the side property line, requiring a variance of 3 feet. Zoning ordinance, section 250-160. The property is zoned C3, General Business District.
Thank you, ma'am.
All right, good morning. Brian Fogel, Assistant Director, Oldham County Planning and Development Services with the staff presentation. Notification of this morning's Board of Adjustments hearing was provided on our website on May 29th. The adjoining property owner notices were also mailed on May 29th, and a legal advertisement appeared in the Oldham Mirror newspaper on June 6th. As Secretary Edgar read into the record, the request is for variances for the front and rear yard setbacks for convenience store building, a variance in the maximum amount of impervious surface allowed on the lot, a minimum setback variance for the fuel station, and then 2 variances for the location of a garbage dumpster. The location of the property is at the corner of Franklin Avenue and West Jefferson Street. So to orient the board where we're talking about, this is exit 22 off of I-71. Courthouse Square is located here. If you go on West Jefferson Street away from downtown LaGrange, after you pass Hetty Radcliffe Funeral Home, at the corner, there's a vacant building. We'll show you pictures of that. And that building is located right here. So the proposal is to tear the vacant building down and replace it with this convenience store and fuel station, which is what's driving the need for the request of the variances that we'll detail here. A few pictures of the site. This is the intersection of Franklin Avenue and West Jefferson Street. So the vacant building is right here. Most recently, it was the location for McAllister's Auto Repair. Franklin Avenue right here, the vacant building right there. The side of the vacant building with the condominiums that front on Anchor Avenue right there. Looking down Jefferson Street back towards downtown LaGrange. Looking down Jefferson Street away from downtown LaGrange. And then a few shots of Franklin Avenue and the site of itself. So this is the appearance of Franklin Avenue, which is on the corner of the site. This is the side of the existing building as it appears on Franklin Avenue. And then looking down the other side of the building, or the rear of the building, where it backs up to the Anchor Avenue condominiums. There is some history going back to 1970 on this particular site, that in 1970, the Oldham County Planning Commission recommended a zoning map amendment on the property to change it to commercial to allow mobile home sales by Albert Troxley. The LaGrange City Council adopted that recommendation and changed the zoning on the property, which at the time was classified as B2, so basically a commercial zoning. In August of 1979, this LaGrange Board of Adjustments, although I strongly suspect there's no current members that were on the board in 1979, approved variances authorizing the addition onto the existing building, which basically brought it to the footprint as it exists today. In June of 1983, the LaGrange Board granted variances to allow the installation of a freestanding pole sign to advertise automobile sales and repair that was with Jim Waits Ford. In November of '89, the LaGrange Board granted a conditional use allowing the installation of a roof sign on the building to advertise the automobile sales and repair business. In September of 1986, granted a variance to allow the construction of a mansard roof onto the existing building, which required a variance because it was a non-conforming building. It did not meet the setback requirements of the zoning ordinance in 1986. And then most recently, prior to coming to the LaGrange Board, the applicants appeared before the Technical Review Committee in March of this year to receive technical comments from the different agencies that attend the Technical Review Committee meetings. Location of the property, highlighted in blue here. The zoning in the area, you can see that the particular site is red, which indicates that it is a commercial zoning district. And then the zoning around the area on Franklin Avenue, West Jefferson Street, is either R2, R2A, or we get over here to where there are apartments under construction, and then also Hetty Radcliffe Funeral Home, it's R4. Put this particular slide in here prior to the time that we start to get into the detail of the variances to kind of make the point to the board that the proposed use for a convenience store and a fuel station is an allowed use in C3. So the question before you all is not whether or not a convenience store and a fuel station is an allowed use on that site, because it is under the zoning ordinance. But the particular proposal that they're requesting with a convenience store and fuel station is what's driving the need for the variances, which is what's under your all's consideration. So highlighted here directly from the zoning ordinance for the C3, you'll see that retail and personal services are permitted use, which would be the convenience store, and then also fuel service stations are permitted use. Getting into the variances, I'm going to just take these one by one. The variances for the convenience store, the variance for the amount of impervious surface on the lot, the variance in the setback for the fuel station, and then also variances in the location of the garbage dumpster. This is the applicant's site plan with the structures highlighted in yellow that are requiring variances. And we'll take those one by one and kind of zoom in to give you more detail on those. So the first one we're going to look at will be the convenience store, which is proposed to be constructed right here, the intersection of West Jefferson Street, Franklin Avenue, located right here. The Anchor Avenue condominiums would be located right here. So the first variance that's being requested is the setback from Jefferson Street. So the minimum setback off of Jefferson Street from the zoning ordinance is 30 feet. And the applicants are proposing to build the convenience store 16 feet from that property line, therefore requesting a 14-foot variance from the Board of Adjustments. The next setback is going to be the rear yard setback for the proposed convenience store. So the rear of the convenience store would be located here. The Anchor Avenue condominiums would be located right here. And the required rear yard setback off of that back property line is 25 feet. And the applicants are proposing to locate the convenience store 7 feet from that rear property line, therefore requiring a variance from the board of 18 feet. The next setback that we're going to talk about would be the impervious surface percentage. So the impervious surface is basically anything that's on the site that is a parking area or a rooftop that would prevent rainwater from percolating down in the ground. So the zoning ordinance specifies that in the C3 zoning district, you can have 65% of your site covered up with parking and rooftop, therefore creating an impervious surface area. And what the applicants are proposing is to have 84% of the site be impervious surface, therefore requiring a variance of 19% in that impervious surface standard. So on the site plan, anything that is shaded in gray, which would be the convenience store, the parking areas, the access aisles, and then additionally, this check-marked spot right here, which would be a combination of the fuel canopy and the concrete for the underground gas tanks, would be considered as impervious surface, which is what's creating their proposal to have a lot that's 84% covered with impervious surface. Okay, the next variance we have would be on the fuel station's canopy. So the zoning ordinance says that for fuel stations, regardless of which zoning district it's in, it needs to be at least 15 feet from any right-of-way line. And what the applicants are proposing is to have it be 9.64 feet off of the Franklin Avenue right-of-way line. So highlighted here in yellow would be the canopy for the fuel station with the pumps underneath the canopy. And then zooming in, here it shows that it would be 9.64 feet. So the requirement is that anything with the fuel canopy needs to be 15 feet from the right-of-way line. They're proposing 9.64 feet from the right-of-way line. Therefore, they're requesting a variance from you all of 5.36 feet. And then two more variances to detail with the garbage dumpster. So they're proposing to put their garbage dumpster location in this rear corner of the site. So the Anchor Avenue condominiums are right here, and then there's a single-family detached home located right here that fronts on Franklin Avenue. The zoning ordinance for all commercial sites in Oldham County state that they cannot occupy any required setback area. So what they're proposing is to locate the dumpster in this rear corner. So for this particular site, the rear yard setback area is 25 feet. They're proposing to locate the dumpster 7 feet from the rear property line, therefore requiring a variance of 18 feet. The side yard setback for a garbage dumpster for this particular site would be 7 feet. They're proposing to locate the garbage dumpster right here, 4 feet from the side property line, therefore requiring a variance of 3 feet. So in summary, what's before your all's consideration today are variances in the front and rear yard setbacks for the convenience store, a variance in the maximum percentage amount for impervious surface area on the site, a variance in the minimum setback of the fuel station off of Franklin Avenue, and then two variances for the location of the garbage dumpster in the rear corner of the site. And that concludes the staff presentation. We can certainly take any questions you have now or later.
Very good. Very good, Brian. Thank you so much. Any questions? No. Could we have the applicant come forward, please? State your name and address.
The PowerPoint.
Yeah. All right. Can we bring up the top 3 PDFs as well underneath the PowerPoint?
Do you want me just to open them and minimize
Yes,
them?
yes.
All right.
Thank you. In case I need to-
All right. Come on. Thank you. If you get hung up on the technology, yell and come over.
Okay. Thank you. Good morning, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, sir.
Okay, my name is Brookins Smith. I'm an attorney with the law firm of Swansburg and Smith, PLLC. Our address is 117 West Main Street here in LaGrange. I represent the owner of the property, Sohal and Cindy Investments, LLC. With me today, I want to introduce Josh Cecil. He's the engineer for this project. I don't know whether we need to swear him in if there's any questions that the board may have pertaining to this, but he's here in case the board
I'd
has
like to
any.
go ahead and do that then, if we could, yes.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Thank you.
Thank you.
So with your permission, Mr. Chairman, I have a presentation here So this is, as Mr. Fogel mentioned, our application for variances on the property located at 800 West Jefferson Street. What you're looking at here, I believe, was also in the staff report, but this is an aerial view of the property as it currently is situated. You can see where it says 800 over the building itself. That is the existing structure, and you can see the paved. You can see the paved area surrounding it. I won't go into the history. Mr. Fogel addressed the sort of the history of zoning and the variances that have been granted to this property in the past. So I think that's been well covered. This next slide is a couple of additional pictures of the current property from more of a street view. As has been mentioned, it's a vacant former auto repair shop. It's 100% surface paved or covered by the structure itself by the former owners. The existing structure was built by the previous owners. And as you can see, this top picture is sort of, this side here is Jefferson Street. And on the left side here, that's the rear that faces the Anchor Avenue condos. And then on the bottom picture shows some of the bays for the auto repair shop. This is Franklin Street on the right here. So this is more of a Franklin Street perspective. The next slide is a current survey of the property, which I will be making reference to throughout this proposal for comparison purposes. You can see the footprint of the existing structure here in this dark gray area and its proximity to both the rear property line facing the Anchor Avenue condominiums and Jefferson Street on the front side. I will have some pictures later on in this presentation that show the current survey and the existing the proposed development plan and some landscaping plans. Just as we look at those, the current survey will be on the left side, and the current proposal, the proposed development, will be on the right side, just to orient you all so you can understand what I'm referring to. And this is generally a darker shaded gray area as compared to the proposed development. So let me just give a very high level overview of the.
Can I ask a question real quick? Is this appropriate? Can I? The current building encroaches on the variances already. That's correct. Is that correct?
That is correct. And
Do you know what those numbers are?
Absolutely, I do. Actually, that is part of my presentation. I appreciate you highlighting for that, but that will actually be a focus of each of my discussion on each of the variances, is how the current structure is situated with regard to the setback rules and the impervious structure. So thank you for raising that. Just as a very high level, I want to just give an idea of what this proposed development is to provide the context for our request for the variances. This just picture is a close-up of the development plan, which is already a part of the record, but I also have a copy of it here. And I also have copies of the development plan and a landscaping plan, which will highlight some of the data points, the setbacks that are currently in the existing structure as it is now versus how the proposed use of the property would be set back. As Mr. Fogel mentioned, it's Z3 general business. Permitted uses include vehicle repair, including service stations and retail, which is what we're proposing. This slide titled Development Plan, the plan is to tear down the vacant repair shop, which is currently 8,522 square feet, to replace it with a new 3,197 square foot, that's the ground floor convenience store building, and a fuel station. And what you see here on the left side of this slide are the current rendering pictures of the proposed convenience store building. This proposal, as Mr. Fogel said, is consistent with the C3 zone, and there are also included in this development plan are improved and enhanced landscaping plans with barriers that help protect the residential adjacent properties. And as I will discuss in some detail, the proposal will actually reduce the impervious surface area compared to the current condition. This next slide is a screenshot of the landscaping plan that I believe was submitted with our proposal, and I've got a copy in my submission here. But you can see that as a general matter, there will be new privacy fencing with greenery facing the Anchor Avenue condominiums right here on the rear side. They're at the very north point of that fencing. There will be included Spartan juniper barriers between this dumpster and the Anchor Avenue condos. There will be a new privacy fencing, this green line as a barrier between the developed property and the Franklin Avenue house that is situated to the north. And then there are landscape beds with various trees and other types of landscaping around the various parts in the south. And there's a berm that'll be put in here on the west side where the fuel stations are. So what we're asking the board to do is to approve a total of 6 variances. 5 of those variances are setback variances, which at a high level will actually improve the current setback area compared to the current condition. The plan will incorporate new privacy fencing and buffers, and these variances are necessary to use the property consistent with the permitted use in a C3 zone. And then there's one requested variance for the impervious surface area requirements, and as I will provide some detail, this will substantially decrease the impervious surface area compared to the current condition. What I'd like to do is, this is just the standard that the board uses in order to grant a variance. The board's to consider whether the strict application of the provisions of the regulation would deprive the applicant of the reasonable use of the land in a manner equivalent to the use permitted in the same zone, whether the unique conditions and circumstances are not the result of the actions of the applicant subsequent to the adoption of the zoning regulation, and the reasons why the variance will preserve and not harm the public safety and welfare and will not alter the essential character of the neighborhood. So what I'd like to do is just go through these requested variances one by one and explain how they will actually improve the conditions of the property. As Mr. Fogel mentioned, variance 1 concerns the street side setback of the convenience store. The regulations call for a 30-foot minimum setback from the street side. That's the Jefferson Street side. Our proposed setback is 16 feet, as he pointed out on the map. That is this orange oval here, or I'm sorry, the orange oval here to the right shows the setback, 16.24 feet, I believe. And if it's not clear, I can actually bring up the proposed development and zoom in a little bit more. On the left here, the left, as I mentioned, is the survey of the existing property. The setbacks that are highlighted in these orange circles is 3.7 feet on the one side and 4.0 feet on the southwest corner of that the existing structure. So the proposal improves the street side yard setback by 12 feet compared to the existing structure. The second variance pertains to the convenience store rear yard setback. That's the setback towards the Anchor Avenue condos. There's a 25-foot setback in the regulations. This circle here, which Mr. Fogel highlighted, shows a setback of 7 feet on the left side, if you can see it. And if you can't see it, I'm happy to bring up the survey, but that shows that the existing setback is 3.3 feet here. I believe on the south side, it's 2.9 feet. So again, the existing structure is set back 2.9 to 3.3 feet. So the proposal actually increases the setback from the rear yard facing the Anchor Avenue condominiums by 3.7 to 4.1 feet over what is currently there in existence today. And as I mentioned, there will be new privacy fencing on this side facing the Anchor Avenue condominiums with greenery, and then the juniper trees on this area up here as well. The third variance pertains to the impervious surface area. Currently, there's 100% of the lot is considered impervious surface at this point due to the paving and the rooftop of the building. I think it's 18,425 square foot is impervious. After the development, 14,645 square feet would be impervious surface, reflecting a reduction of the impervious surface area by 15.95%, which would help improve the stormwater absorption in this area. And as part of that, as you can see, is because of the landscaping elements that have been included in the development proposal. The fourth variance is the fuel canopy setback. The regulations require a 15-foot setback from the right-of-way. I do want to just make sure that we all understand that what we're talking about is the canopy itself, not the fuel pumps themselves. The fuel pumps are set back. You can see the fuel pumps here, 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 and here, but these are the two that are closest to the Franklin Street. They are set back 17.91 feet, as shown in this orange circle, so they are in compliance. And so what we're talking about is the edge of the canopy that is that would be built to protect the fuel pumps and customers from inclement weather, precipitation, and the like. The fifth variance is the dumpster setback facing Anchor Avenue. Again, shown on the existing survey, the existing corner of this building, which would be torn down, is 3.3 feet from the property line adjacent to the Anchor Avenue condominiums. On the right here, as you can see in this orange circle, the development setback would be 7 feet. So again, an improvement over the current condition of the property, an additional 3.7 feet setback over what is there now. I do want to point out too that the Anchor Avenue condos you can't see them on this development plan. They're farther off the page here, but there already is currently there on the property, the adjacent property, existing pavement between the development area and the rear adjacent structures. And I will just point out here, this shaded here is where the dumpster will go. But again, it's 7 feet setback. This line is consistent with it being 7 feet setback from the Anchor Avenue condominiums. Included in the development plan was additional details on the dumpster itself. This is the dumpster enclosure plan that is a part of the development proposal. It's, if you look at the plan, it's in the bottom left-hand corner of the development plan. What it shows is that there'll be a 6-foot dumpster that will be enclosed within a container that is 10 feet wide and 12 feet long with a minimum height of 8 feet. So there will be an enclosure of that dumpster. And the dumpster itself will also have a barrier. There will be implemented a barrier of these 5 Spartan junipers to protect the view of the dumpster from the Anchor Avenue condominiums. The sixth and final variance, again, is the dumpster setback for the Franklin Avenue house. The current you can see actually the current survey of the property shows that current building comes right up to the line of the property. I believe the setback is 4 feet under the plan. So it represents certainly not anything worse than what is there right now, and I believe it would be an improvement over what is currently existing with the existing property. And again, just to reiterate, there will be a new privacy fence that will be constructed on that between the proposed development and the Franklin Avenue house. So in summary, just to reiterate, the development is consistent with the permitted use. The strict application of the setback and the impervious surface requirements will deprive the owner of the reasonable use by further reducing the size of the convenience store, preventing collection of waste through the refuse, the garbage area, and removing protection for fuel pumps and customers from weather events. The variances that we're asking will preserve and improve public safety and welfare by actually increasing the setback area and reducing the impervious surface amount by allowing improved absorption of the stormwater over the existing condition. New privacy fencing and landscaping will enhance and improve barriers with adjacent residential properties. The canopy setback does not adversely impact public safety or welfare, and the conditions for the variances are due to the previous use, or the necessity is due to the previous use and condition of the property that was constructed by the previous owner. So with that, Mr. Chairman and members of the board, I'm happy to take any questions that you may have, but I appreciate the opportunity to be here today to explain the reasons for our requests.
All righty. Thank you very much, sir. Does any of the board have any questions for the applicant at this time from what he's presented?
Not this time.
Mr. Early.
Have you all had a chance to talk personally to any of the residents, and what kind of feedback have you gotten?
I am not aware that we've had any discussions with the residents. I'm not aware of any discussions. No, sir.
Okay. Mr. Pierce, you have any questions? Okay. All righty. Do you have anybody else here that would like to speak in favor of your project, sir?
No, sir. Just if there's ever any questions of a technical nature, then Mr. Cecil can weigh in. But no, there's no one else here to speak on behalf of the proposal.
All righty. All righty. I thank you very much, sir. Now, at this time, do we have anybody that would like to speak in opposition of this project? Mr. Tice. If you could mention your name and address, sir, appreciate it.
I'm Wayne Tice. I live at 5103 Glen Cove Road. I own the property at 103 Anchor Avenue. It was built by my mother. My wife and I own it under LLC, and that's the reason I got notification, and that's the reason I'm here today.
Okay. One thing before you proceed, can I get you sworn in, please, sir?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The number one thing that I did, and I can answer the question, none of the property owners were contacted. I spent this past week getting signature. Put it on the overhead so you guys. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And I've got 2 copies of the people that are abutting property owners. The only one that I have not been able to get is the one that is in the northwest corner. He's got UPS packages that have been sitting on his front strip most of the week, so I assume he's out of town. I even checked it this morning on my way in.
Okay.
None of the residents that abut the property are in favor of this. It's way too much for too little. And that's all of the people there. Most of them are property owners. There may be a rental or 2 in there, I'm not sure.
Mm-hmm.
Let me cover, if I can briefly, and Mr. Early asked the question, so it's be kind of an addressing to it, is the zoning of the property. If you look at it, it's kind of ridiculous that is a C3 when you see nothing else but residential around it. Planning and zoning was put into effect in 1969. A gentleman named Albert Troxel, who those of us that have been in LaGrange have known him. He had several businesses. At that time, he had a business in that building that was at the corner. So the common practice, the planning and zoning went into effect, was that if somebody already had business, we wouldn't take him out of business just because we got planning and zoning. So he was granted what he was doing as best he could, and that is that was a C3. He also had some car sales over the year. There's been a secondhand furniture store, got an auto repair shop, and a lot of different things. All of the property around this property is either R2, R2A, or R4. So that's so that you'll know what's going on. And as you move back the Frankfurt or Anchor, you'll have all residential. So I'm going to call this a residential neighborhood because I really feel like it is. Now, a couple of things, and I was going through and Mr. Fogel read out all of the history on the site. There was one thing that I had noticed, and I think I'm right, I could be wrong, is that when we go back to history, we go back to 1989, and then he had 1986. And those, if you flop those, in 1986, he requested a mansard roof on the front of a straight-walled building at that time to dress it up and make it look a little bit more. I think that roof sign was placed on the mansard, not on the top of the roof. And because when you look in the history, it calls the mansard a mansard roof. I wouldn't call that the roof, but technically that could be what it is. So that's where I am with that. When we look at all the setbacks, and let me just step one step back if I can. When we talk about all of what it will look like in a new building and da-da-da-da-da, that's not the real issue here. The residents have owned that house, and my mother and father built that house in 1979, just to be exact on that. What it is the uses that are allowed under what the proposed use of this property, and how that will invade the other properties around. It may be a new pretty building, but when you start looking at what's happening on that property, that's what we're all concerned about. If it was put there and it was all pretty and nobody came in, that'd be good, a little bit better. But over the years, the property that's been there has never created anything outside of their property that would affect or did affect the neighbors. I think it only takes one thought of when we're talking about a gas station and a convenience shop. We've all been in them, we all use them, but you got to think what I'm getting into is what's happening in those. My philosophy has always been, in trying to be decisions, what would I want to be, and I'm posing that to you all right now, if you were any of these property owners, and now all of a sudden, we're going to have late night operations, could be up to 24/7, and I've checked, and one of our convenience in LaGrange is that. You've got excessive lighting. You've got excessive in and out traffic at an intersection on Franklin Avenue, which I did not measure the intersection, but I measured the new pavement at the end of, let's see, make sure I get this right, at the northernmost, at their property on what I'll call the backside, away from 146. That is a finished, it's brand new, city just did it. It's 16 foot wide. Now let's think about how many cars. I'm not sure you can get 2 cars in there without getting off. You always get a little flare out at 146 or at big intersections. And because it's all asphalt, I couldn't tell what exactly. I think in one of their things it said it was at 18 and a half foot. Where I measured the road and what was put down within the last month was 16 foot. You've got excessive noise with cars opening, shutting doors in and out, and all of the stuff that goes on, because this is not where somebody's going to walk in, stay there, and be there an hour or two, or have a doctor's appointment. There's 2 grease traps on the plan at the back of the property. that would lead me to think that there's going to be cooking on the facility. And I'm not sure if that's correct. We could ask the applicant that. But that threw up a flag in my... The dumpsters are going to be located, and I know they're going to have a little shielding or landscaping. But the dumpster is going to be 7 foot and 3 foot from the 3 adjoining property owners. That's right back in the corner in the middle of where you got people living and resting or trying to rest, and our garbage people on commercial pick up somewhere around 6 o'clock or earlier so that they can get into the residential sections later, so they don't have that. Virtually all the property will be impervious. And I think impervious means that water doesn't go through, it stands on top of it. Is that correct? And so all of the property, except for a couple of planting areas, just to give a little bit of appeal. And also, I need to say, there's another application that is coming forward next week, and that will be heard by the Planning and Zoning Board. And they are requesting their waivers to include locating off-street parking in a required building setback. Now, you all don't hear that today, but this is just the first bite of the apple, and there's more coming. And then the other one is that there'll be a reduction in the landscape buffer areas and plantings of the property. And I can give everybody a copy if you don't believe me. And I'll just leave it. I'll leave this up here. I have my copy. You want to hear? Wherever you want. I don't care whether to look at it or not. If you want to, you can. There are enough planning and zoning under C1, C2, and C3. There are enough uses in those 3 categories. And if you're on a C3, you can go what they call into C2 and C1. And the uses are not invasive to the surrounding neighborhood because it will tremendously alter the property values. And what is that? Everybody hears that word. It will alter the living standards and the property surrounding it for sure. These aren't $500,000 houses. They were. But these are people that are out there making a living, have either bought their property, and what they don't need is that coming in there. When with a little bit of time, there'll be changes in Oldham County, and in Oldham County, and especially in LaGrange, that will afford other property not sitting right in the middle of a residential district. Let me cover my notes, man. And I'm talking about the canopy and how it infringes on it. Yeah, and I need to cover that too. I need that. When you're talking about the minimum side yard, the setback goes from 30 down to, when you talk about the convenience in Jefferson County Street, the setback is 30. They're going to 14. No, they're going to 16, and they're asking for a variance of 46 2/3%. When you go to the rear setback up against Anchor, your setback is 25. They want to go to 7. That is a 72%. When you go to the impervious surface, that goes down. That is already in a 19%. The fuel canopy is a 35, almost 36% variance. The dumpster is on the back is a 72% variance. And then on the house facing Franklin Street is a 42.86 variance. These are not small variances. This is where this is going out, and it will protrude over there. Convenience stores, any type of store where you've got access and shopping, is that? And we've seen it. We've all seen it. The trash that people drop, et cetera, they don't take care of it like it's their yard. So you're going to have that invading that neighborhood as well. So it's not the looks that we are concerned about, but it's how this, by being there with that on it, how it can affect us. And there's other options in our planning book that are doable. I think at this point, I need to quit until my summation. And is there any questions for me?
Mr. Early?
Yes, sir.
Are you aware at this time if the current setup with the parking lot and the building, has it been causing any water problems for any of the people around that property?
No. Now, and I'm going to say that, let me qualify that. I owned one of the condos, or my son did, on Anchor, one of the four. And then I own the first house back, my wife and I do, on Anchor. There's never been a problem at either one of those. And since my son had no problem on Anchor, then I'm going to assume the other three did not, because he was in Unit B, which was in the center.
Okay, another question.
Yes, sir.
If this project could be done with no variances, would you still object to it?
Probably. And what it does to the neighborhood with the type of unit that it is. This type of business needs to either be on a large acreage where he's not next to anybody. And I mean more than just 7. I mean, the setback is as short as I am. But what'll also happen is that needs to be in a more congenial place. Just because something's allowed in C3, and back when our forefathers did it and they granted to C3, doesn't mean it's doable now. 50 years ago, and I'm not sure you get there, but I sure do, what was a gas station was a whole lot different than what it is today. It was just a place where a guy went in, bought a tank of gas.
Mr. Tice?
Yes, sir.
And
Am I getting
think
close?
Mr. Early.
Mr. Early.
Well, no. Actually, what you all are discussing is about, the land use, and we're really not here to discuss that part. In the existing zoning, and, you're presenting your side of it, but within the existing zoning, this type of business is allowed
Is
under
allowed.
current zoning.
Under
So,
current zoning?
Yes, yes.
But the only history part was how it got there. Not
Gotcha.
that it was a wisdom that that's what it ought to be then or today. It's just the way it got there.
Yeah.
Okay, excuse me. Mr. Early, you got anything else for me? It looks like we're running out of time.
I had a question, though.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Tosh, you mentioned that you had that list that you showed us earlier about adjoining property owners had not been contacted or anything, but our records show that notices went out to the adjoining neighbors, all the properties that adjoined that on 529, and then also it was published in the Old America on 6/6.
You're right, and if I said that, I was wrong. The question that was directed to their attorney was, do you know if any of those people have been contacted personally? And he turned to the engineer, and he said, not to my knowledge. And that's what I meant there. Not that they didn't get the packet, and
Okay.
notification, because they all did.
All right.
And when you're talking about just regular people
Mm-hmm.
that don't have any experience with planning and zoning, when you get all of those prints and they're not engineers, you don't know what you got. You don't know what you really do, and it ends up in a lot of cases you take what you get.
Mm-hmm.
And when I got mine, I'm older, so I knew what to look for. I knew what to do, and I went out and saw those people and sat in their houses or on their back porch, and we talked about it. And I know a lot of them, and I said, just because it's me, I'm not asking. If you disagree with me, you think I'm wrong, don't sign this, and they'll all tell you that. And everybody says, no, we don't. That's not what we need. That's not it. And I did touch one other lady that I left out, and that was Sherry Glauber, who's now Sherry Winfrey. She's the first house, and she's been living there 50 years. So
Right.
and hers is right. It doesn't touch that point, but it's right at it.
Okay.
Okay.
Any other questions for Mr. Tice or anybody else opposed, wish to come to the podium? All righty. Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Appreciate your time.
Thank you very much. Did you keep that?
So now we come to a portion in this meeting where all the board members have to put together everything that they've heard and rebuttals on it. That's true. I'm sorry. I forgot. Thank you, sir. I appreciate this guy. He keeps me in order. Yes, sir. Right.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I won't take a whole lot of time. I think what I heard from the residents is just, in general, in opposition to the overall the intended use of the property, which, as you mentioned, is really not the question that's before the board here today. The question is whether the variances are allowable under the standard. And while they may have fears or concerns, I didn't hear any evidence that indicate that the requested variances would, in fact, impair adversely public safety or welfare. And as I mentioned earlier, the variances that we're seeking in almost every circumstance are actually, we're doing a better job of putting the property into a use that is in greater conformity with the regulations than it exists today. So the purposes behind those variances will be better served by the proposed developed property than as it sits today. And we're taking additional measures to make sure that the dumpster area and the property itself is appropriately, there's appropriate barriers between the property, which do not exist, by the way, today, facing the Anchor Avenue condominiums. There's no fence line. There's no fence, privacy fence. There will be when this project is completed. So that's my overall rebuttal. I would just say that we did provide notices as required. There was not, in terms of actual personal outreach to the neighbors, I don't believe that an actual neighborhood meeting was required in this instance because it didn't involve the use of multiple lots. So, but just to clarify that point, that's why there was no direct personal meeting. So, thank you for your time.
Right.
Unless there's any questions for me.
I can't.
I have a question.
It's rebuttal, and then take rebuttal,
Yes, sir.
take rebuttal from the opposition.
Yes, sir.
And then have a discussion or questions, as opposed to,
Right. Open discussion. Correct.
Fair enough.
when it's their turn to present evidence, and then you can have questions all collectively, whoever you want to come up. It'd be easier that way.
I have a question. Mr. Tice presented a document that's going before planning and zoning that your investment groups got before them, and I did not understand the document that Mr. Tice presented. And my question would be, does that planning and zoning proposal, does that have any effect on what we're doing today?
No, sir. I mean, there are some additional waivers that we're seeking, but that will go before a different body for consideration. Those waivers are not subject to this board's approval. It does not require this board's approval. This is just for the variances from the dimensional setbacks and things like that. That's what we're talking about here today.
All righty, thank you very much, sir. Again, it's time for rebuttals again from anybody that wishes to present one. Yes, sir. Come on up towards the mic, please.
I'm still under oath.
Yes, sir.
When you said something a minute ago about.
Wayne, talk to the board and then they'll answer. Don't worry.
Oh, okay. When you mentioned earlier that something that I had said was incorrect, what was, I didn't hear it because I don't hear good. My age.
May I address that? Or?
Yes.
Oh, absolutely. Excuse me.
I think what you're referring to is the overall. I think there was an overall theme to your remarks here today that that was in the nature of a disagreement with the overall intended use of the property, but the intended use of the property is in alignment with the current zoning, that is the permitted uses under the current zone. And so to the extent that there is a disagreement over how the owner would like to use the property, generally that's not really before the board here. That's not really the subject of the board. I think I'm not sure what else I said about your comments, but I think that's what you're referring to. So that's all.
I agree. Thank you.
Yeah, and I will agree with that statement, but when we go into the size and the magnitude of it, my point brings that up, which causes to where we are. So, that the reason it needs to be denied. Am I on now, or do I need to?
You'll have final statements. I'm going to after, I think there's going to be some questions. I have some too that I didn't ask because I thought I'd hear, but, and then there'll be closing statements.
Closing statements by both of you.
Not yet, Mr. Tice.
I have a closing statement.
Well, I just said.
And I can answer anything.
Let us ask questions and then you can do your closing statement.
Let's do that. Yes, sir.
Yeah, yeah. So we'll let you take a
You want me to
seat
go
for a
back to my seat,
second.
or do you want to get me while I'm up here?
Yep, yep. Thank you. So now it's time for a discussion amongst the board
Well, I have questions.
and questions. Yes, sir.
I didn't know whether the board would ask. You can ask the board if they have questions
Yes.
first, and then I'll ask mine.
So any of the board members have any additional questions after hearing the statements and the rebuttals?
No.
There being none. Mr. Urban?
Mr. Smith, if you would, I think you can answer these. Mr. Tice asked a question. I know this is land use, but he asked a question about whether or not there was going to be cooking on the property. Are they going to have anything that would vent into the air, whether it was a fryer or anything like that?
I will defer to Mr. Cecil. I think there may be some countertop food items, but I'll let Mr. Cecil address that.
If you could state your name and address, please, sir.
Josh Cecil, 214 Fairway West, Nicholasville, Kentucky.
Can you spell your name, last name, please?
Cecil, C-E-C-I-L.
Great, thank you.
Currently, there is plans to have counter service cooking, as you see in typical convenience store. Will there be venting? I'm not sure. It would be dependent on the size of the kitchen. And to my knowledge, that's not been completed yet. There's allocated space, and we know there will be some commercial cooking. That's why there is a grease trap right now.
And
I
again,
think-
my point being, even though it's land use, it relates really to the proximity to adjoining property owners when you're asking for variances, in my opinion.
So most likely you're going to have there will be a flat top for grilling and/or something that they are producing grease-laden vapors, and that's going to require
Potentially, yes.
suppression
And
hoods.
then that would go through the same approvals and permitting as it's finalized, yeah.
Correct, correct.
I have more questions. And you might stay up there. I've not heard a description about, on the west side of the building, where facing the condominiums on Anchor Avenue in their parking area, is there going to be any access to the building? Is there going to be any storage of anything? How is that, even though it's only a 7-foot setback?
No egress doors, only general maintenance to say if someone needed to walk back there. Nothing, no equipment. All the HVAC would be either on the roof or in between the building and the dumpster, and hidden and screened as well.
Okay, that leads to my next question. On your site plan, there's an area there's a statement that said enhanced dry swale.
Correct.
And it looks fairly wide. Is there any reason why you couldn't bring the dumpster closer to the building and away from the property line and reduce the request for the variance?
You start getting into the island that would be there for the other landscaping requirements inside. Then you could potentially bring it a little bit further south, but then the angle of the dump truck backing into it gets not as favorable for that turn movement. But I do want to say the dumpsters are covered as well.
Okay.
So the enhanced dry swale, that's a water quality feature. Even though we're not going to be required to meet that, we're still putting in water quality and retention.
And couldn't that be on the other side of the dumpster? And there's a lot of asphalt that sure looks as though the dumpster could be accessed if it was pushed closer to the building and kind of flip-flop those two areas.
It's something we can look at, but what the approach for a dump truck going to there, you would also, like I said, get rid of the landscape island at the end of the parking. If that's agreeable, that's fine. It's just looking at all the ordinances as they are.
This right here.
Well, I see that, but and if you can maybe put up the landscape plan, because it almost looks like it is going to be, I'd have to see the landscape plan. A hard surface versus landscape.
Yeah,
Oh,
so that's
all right.
that is a landscape island.
Okay.
I mean, we can, if that helps our case, we can look at it.
Again, I'm
No, I
asking
understand.
questions that weren't asked, and, you know, especially when you're asking for variances and they're imposing on a neighbor versus figuring it out on your own property, and trying to understand what that enhanced dry swale is, what its purpose, what it's made for, and why, as opposed to flipping it over. The site is pretty flat, I understand that.
It is.
I don't know how the drainage is going to work, but
So as it is right now, where that pavement, it generally drains in that dumpster area from north to south into the dry enhanced swale, then wraps around the building all on site, and then goes into a bioretention area on the south side. If we were going to put the enhanced dry swale in the north, we would then have to slope any of the pavement towards the adjoining property owner, and then potentially catch it. And then you could have runoff if things aren't maintained, all those.
so you see why I asked that question. So there's a reason why you're putting the dumpster where it is, that I hadn't really
It is.
heard a good description of. I think that's all I have.
All righty. Thank you. So at this point,
Any other questions?
any other questions before we go into a motion? There being none, all things considered, are we ready
Closing statements?
for a closing statement from either Mr. Tice or
Well, Mr. Tice goes first.
he goes
Opposition
first? Correct, yes. A closing statement from you guys?
Not in the closing statement, no. You're really not supposed to present any new evidence in a closing statement. That's why the opposition goes first.
I misread it.
Yep.
As you go
And-
through,
Pull your mic.
excuse me, apologize. As we go through the dockets that I got in the mail, there's certain motions that we have to turn this down. And I think that's very easy, one or all. One of them, do the variances, will it adversely affect the public health, safety, and welfare? God forbid anything happens. This type of business is a fast turn, high pace, and coming out in and out of 146, which is a heavily trafficked area on a narrow road with another road coming across. I think that could be a safety issue without a question of doubt. Will this alter the character of the general vicinity? That's pretty obvious. I don't think I need to say much. That's, just changes everything. Will it cause a hazard or nuisance to the public? And I'm not sure who the public is, but I know for the property owners that it will affect them and infringe their property values and their way of life because of the stuff that, the noises and the lights and all of that goes along with a type of business like this. Will it allow an unreasonable circumvention of the requirements of the zoning regulations? I wasn't positive what that meant, circumvention of the zoning regulations. But the way I felt like it, what it asked, it's this application for this piece of property, I can't think of any more variance you could ask for, and any more. They go from 35% to 42%, up to a couple of them of 72% variance. So if I was applying to something, applying to zoning, I sure wouldn't ask for that many variances. I'd pick something else out. So if way I interpret that is the way it was written, I would say then it's just an overload. Thank you for affording me the time to present my case. We want a good community and continue with that. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, just very quickly, I would just say that the objections that we've heard generally, again, go to the nature of the intended use. They don't actually go to the variances that we are requesting today. To the extent that there is a concern about impact on traffic or the condition of the neighborhood, those will not be impacted by the variances that we're talking about here today. That is more of a zoning issue, the permitted use of the zoning than really how the variances that we're asking would impact anyone. So the variances on the setbacks, on the dumpster, the impervious, those won't impact traffic. Those won't change the nature of the surrounding communities or the neighborhood at all. And there's no proof whatsoever that the variances either to the rear yard, the side yard, to the north, to Jefferson Street on the street side, or to Franklin Street will negatively impact the public safety or welfare. What we're talking about here is taking a property that is currently abandoned and vacant and making it a productive property consistent with what's allowed in the zone. And the property owner is proposing reducing, again, the footprint of the building significantly, in part to bring the property, to increase the setbacks that are currently there with the existing building, and to allow for more landscaping, to decrease by almost 16% the area of impervious surface area, which will promote the absorption of rainwater. So the variances they're requesting are needed so that the owner can use this property in a reasonable manner, in a manner that's envisioned by the existing zone, and to deny him would deprive him of that use. So we'd ask for your favorable approval for each of the 6 variances. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
You want me to go over this?
Yeah.
Okay, so you've heard evidence and testimony. There were questions asked. I think the important thing to understand is that although we heard evidence about the intended use, your motion can't include anything about the intended use. You have to really consider each of these variances. I think we're going to take them one at a time. On page 4 in your staff report, you should all open that up. At the top, it says, findings necessary for granting variances. Of course, the same question applies to denying a variance. You have to look at whether it arises from special circumstances, whether there are provisions in the regulations that would deprive the applicant, or that circumstances are not the result or actions of the applicant taken after the adoption of the zoning regulations. So again, you've heard testimony on both sides of that subject matter. On that same page are motions and findings. So again, either to approve or deny, you really have to test whether or not the variance will adversely affect the public health, safety, and welfare, will not affect the essential character, will not cause a hazard or nuisance, and will not allow unreasonable circumvention of the regulations. And if you make a motion, you really have to make a statement based on the case you heard today. You can't just say that it will or it won't be a public nuisance. You have to state why. So I want you to take time in considering motions for each of these and be able to make statements based on the evidence and testimony that you heard today that apply specifically to this case. And, you know, Mr. Chairman, and because there are 6 variances requested altogether, the board could take a recess to consider these if they want, so you can carefully write out your motion or consider a motion or consider your position or think about the testimony you heard. It would be reasonable to do that. Take your time, because there are, when we're going to take them one at a time. And then again, the other thing that to remember is there are waivers, I think you're clear on it, that are going in front of the Planning Commission next week for the landscape requirements. That is not your purview here today. Those waivers, the Board of Adjustments does not have the authority to grant waivers on a development plan. That's why they're going to the Planning Commission.
I would like to take about a 15-minute recess, if you don't mind, so that the board members can discuss this.
They cannot discuss it.
Well, yeah,
Sorry, no,
but
you are not to
think about it.
discuss your thinking with anybody but the staff.
Right.
We're here to help you. You do not discuss it with other board members or with the applicant or opposition.
Right.
I think Mr. Craigmile might show up in the meantime. He's your attorney. If you have questions procedurally, he didn't hear the evidence or testimony, but
Okay.
if he does,
Do I need a motion to take a recess then?
you do.
I'd like to have a motion then to go into a 15-minute recess. Mr. Pierce made a motion.
Second.
Motion's been seconded. It's about 2-3 minutes till 10. Like to come back at 15 after 10. All right, we're a couple of minutes early, but I'd like to accept a motion to return back from our recess. Can I get that? I have a motion, and a second, to return back to, away from our recess. Been a lot of discussions or a lot of thoughts in that 15 minutes, I believe, amongst members' thoughts on their own, and gave us the opportunity to converse with the city attorney, who is now present, Mr. Craig Meyer. Had a delay in getting here, but he's here now, so great. In body, yes, sir. Yes, sir. So what we've got is, of course, 6 individual variances here. And we're going to take each one of these one at a time and get a motion to approve or deny, and a second, and then there would be discussion on that prior to a vote on it. So if we can move forward at this time, I would like to start this off by accepting a motion for, let's go at the very top, the number 1 requested variance, and that's going to be minimum street side yard setback being the Jefferson Street side of the property. Can I get a motion on that?
If I can just interject again, make sure that you use page 4, which has sample motions for either approval or denial, and make statements in those categories, at least one of the categories. Make sure it's relevant to the case today.
Again, I'm looking for a motion either to grant the variances or to deny the variances.
As far as the minimum street side setback on Jefferson Street, I'd like to make a motion to deny because it will adversely affect the public health, safety, or welfare, alter the essential character of the general city, or possibly cause a hazard and nuisance to the public.
And again, you have to state specific to this case, fill in the blanks on why, give at least a reason why you believe that the denial of that or the granting would affect those things you just said. Specific to this case.
You know, with the addition of semi-trucks and additional traffic, you know, I think we need to maintain the full the full setback that's required.
Do we have a second on that motion? Mr. Pierce seconds that motion.
Well, I believe that your criteria was that it would provide for an unreasonable circumvention of the requirements. Was that one of your reasons?
Because of the increased traffic and the type of traffic that will be entering this, I think we need the 30-foot.
Okay, that's good.
Any other comments about this specific motion then?
I have a couple questions first before comment. How long has it been since McAllister's, which I think was the last business on that location, was in business? How long has it been vacant?
I'm not sure how that's relevant to the motion.
Well, the reason
that's because that's about land use, not about the variance.
Okay.
Unless you can somehow relate it to the variance. on why a property is vacant, it's really not relevant to the question today, which is the granting of a variance for a new structure.
I would disagree. I think that the current property is in, this improves the current property greatly, enough that it will be advantageous to the community.
Well, if, I don't believe that's, you can ask your attorney that question, but you can vote the way your conscience tells you to vote.
Yeah, Al, just so you'll know that this is the code says that it's supposed to be 30 feet from Jefferson Street,
I understand that.
and now it's going to be 14 feet. That's the whole.
What is it currently? What's the current building?
I don't know. I wasn't here for the facts.
That's what I think. The current building's even closer. I think it's a good plan. Makes the property look better. It observes the variances far better than they are currently being observed.
Mm-hmm.
And there'll be more setbacks. Granted, it's a few feet, but it's a lot closer to what the code says.
So we have a motion and a second. There's been some discussion, questions asked. Are there any more questions to be asked on this?
Yeah, this is totally the discussion amongst, this is like a trial and in a jury, and you all are the jury. And you just have to make your decisions based on the evidence in the record, not on, as it was presented today, what the evidence was. And, it's totally a question of whether any of these four factors for a denial are on this, like on this fourth page here, are what you're basing your facts on. So the four issues to deny are whether it will adverse public health, safety, or welfare. That would relate to the traffic belief, will alter the essential character of the general vicinity. I think that's your argument, is that it does not alter the essential character, that a gas station.
I think it improves it.
Okay, and there's a question whether it would cause a hazard or nuisance to the public. I think that is wasn't here for that testimony, but that is up to y'all. It's it's up to you to decide. It's up to us to decide. Or is that an unreasonable circumvention of the requirements? And unreasonable is a very loose term, but the more variance that's requested, the more unreasonable it tends to become. Although there are situations where setback has been reduced to zero in some places. It's not uncommon to have a zero setback, and if the situation and the facts present themselves.
So currently, we have a motion and a second to deny the minimum side street yard setback there on Jefferson Street that we'll need to take a vote on. And that's,
There needs to be a
Right.
call for the question, and there's a vote, and then if there's a tie, then then you call for the vote and then make that decision on that one at a time.
All righty, all righty. Then I would like to move forward with a vote to deny that motion for the reasons stated.
So I want to just caution you, the motion is to deny. If you support the denial, you say yes. You would think that it's just the opposite. If the motion is to deny, if you support the motion, you say yes. If you do not support the motion, you say no. That means you're not in agreement with the denial.
And just so
Everybody
you-
clear on that?
Well, there was already a motion on the floor for that.
In a second.
So you seconded it, and, yeah, so there'll be a vote. Now, just because you don't deny it doesn't mean you approve it, right? Because unless there has to be a motion it doesn't automatically approve it. There has to
Let's
be
see what
another
the-
motion to approve or
Let's see
deny.
what the vote is, and then we'll.
Yeah,
vote
but
on
I
that.
just want them to know what the procedures are in case they take this step. Okay, so that doesn't automatically flip, it's not a win or lose situation.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
All righty. I'd like to call for the vote on that, again, minimum side yard setback on Jefferson Street to reduce the variance from 30 to 14 feet, thereby
Step roll call. Yeah. Oops.
thereby giving a 14-foot variance. We can do a roll call, please.
Mr. Morgan?
Yes.
Mr. Pierce? Yes. Mr. Early?
No.
Thank you.
Well,
So. Yep. So we have a vote of, all right,
2-1, wasn't it?
2-1 is the total on that vote. So that motion is denied by a vote of
the
2-1.
variance is denied.
The variance is denied, yes. Thank you.
So click through the rest of them.
All righty. We have another one. Second variance requested is a minimum rear yard setback for the Anchor Avenue condominiums. The required minimum setback being 25 foot. The applicant wishes to build at 7 foot, thereby requesting an 18-foot variance. I need a motion either to approve or to deny. Can I have that motion, please? Again, this is going to be the side that backs up to the Anchor Avenue condominiums. It's described as being a rear yard setback. We are at a point where we need to take a motion on approving or denying an 18-foot requested variance on this.
I'll make a motion to deny this request of the variance because it will alter the essential character of the general vicinity and cause a possible hazard or nuisance to the public.
So we have a motion. I need a second on that motion. Second. We have a second from Mr. Pierce. I'd now like to call for a vote to, and again, this is a motion to deny, so if you vote yes, you are supporting that motion to deny. If you vote nay, then the opposite. Christie will take a roll call vote at this time.
Mr. Early?
No.
Mr. Morgan?
Yes.
Mr. Pierce?
Yes.
The voting was in favor, 2-1, to deny the second variance. We'll move on now to the next variance requested. That is for a maximum lot impervious surface percentages. Maximum allowed is 65%. The applicant is proposing to build it at 84%, thereby requesting a variance of 19%.
I just want to say one thing. You know, we're taking these one at a time because some of these, even though you denied the first two, there might be some that you would consider approving for various reasons based on the evidence that you heard. So just want to say that there are some things that you could consider approving, if you so choose.
I'd like to move forward with the impervious surface percentages variance. Do I have a motion to approve or deny this variance?
I make a motion to approve this variance. It will not alter the essential character of the general vicinity and will not cause a hazard or nuisance to the public.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve a 19% variance in the maximum lot impervious surface percentage. We'll now vote on that. Christie?
Mr. Pierce?
Yes.
Mr. Morgan?
Yes.
Mr. Early?
Yes.
That motion passes. There was 3 in favor, 0 opposed. So the variance of 19% passes. Next one is going to be the fuel canopy setback that is abutting up to Franklin Avenue. There's a required minimum setback of 15 feet. The applicant proposes to build at 9.64 feet, asking for a variance of 5.36 feet. I'd like to entertain a motion to either approve or deny this requested variance. Calling once again for a motion on the setback variance for the fuel canopy itself that has to do with Franklin Avenue. Minimum setback 15 foot, proposed to build at 9.64 feet, a variance of 5.36 feet. Do I have a motion?
I'll make the motion to deny,
Motion by Mr. Pierce to deny.
because it would adversely affect public health, safety, or welfare, will alter the essential character of the vicinity, cause a hazard or nuisance to the public.
Nope.
Second.
I'm sorry, who was the second on that? No. So we have a motion and a second. I'd like to call for a vote on the fuel canopy setback on Franklin Avenue at this time. Christie?
Mr. Morgan?
Yes.
Mr. Early?
No.
Mr. Pierce?
Yes.
So we have 2 votes in favor, 1 opposed. The variance to deny is approved. Next variance requested is a garbage dumpster minimum setback on Anchor Avenue condominiums. Minimum rear yard setback is 25 feet. Proposed by the applicant to build at 7 feet, thereby requesting a variance of 18 feet for Anchor Avenue condominium setback. I'd like to have a motion to approve or deny this variance.
Make a motion to deny the variance because it will alter the essential character of the general facility and possibly cause a hazard and nuisance to the public.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. I'd now like to call for a vote on this Anchor Avenue condominium's minimum yard setback, or the dumpster setback. Christie?
Mr. Early,
Yes.
Mr. Morgan,
Yes.
Mr. Pierce,
Yes.
The vote being 3 yes, 0 no, the motion to deny is approved. One last variance requested by the applicant, garbage dumpster minimum setback on Franklin Avenue. The variance minimum is 7 feet on the side yard setback. The builder wants to put in at 4 feet, a variance requested of 3 feet. I'll take a motion to approve or deny this variance.
I'll make a motion to deny
Motion to deny.
based on that it would adversely affect public health, safety, or welfare, will alter the essential character of the general vicinity, and will cause a hazard or nuisance to the public.
Do I have a second for this motion?
Second by Morgan.
Second has been received. Therefore, the motion goes to vote. Christie?
Mr. Pierce,
Yes.
Mr. Early,
Yes.
Mr. Morgan,
Yes.
The vote on the dumpster setback on Franklin Avenue is 3-0, 3 yes. That means that the motion has been denied. I believe that's going to be all the requests that we had for variances. So just to go back there to the one that was approved, that's going to be the impervious lot percentages that were approved at 19%, variance requested. All others, the other 5 were denied at this time. So that's it. That's it. We have one more thing on the agenda. If you will look down, that is a motion to approve the minutes of the previous meeting. If folks could take a look at that, please.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve the previous meeting's minutes. All say in favor?
Aye.
Motion's approved. One last motion, and that would be to adjourn at 10:38
So moved.
a.m.
So moved.
Seconded.